Welcome to this Stockbox interview.
Joining us this morning is Ben Turney, the CEO of Kavango Resources. Ben, welcome to Stockbox. How are you?
I'm bloody freezing, Mark. I'm up in Sweden at the moment seeing my kids, and it's very cold up here.
Okay, right. Well, there's been a couple of RNSs that maybe would help to keep you warm. Recently one yesterday and one this morning. So the one yesterday then, the drilling commencement and upgraded target motivation. It's a very lengthy RNS. It's also very technical. I've noticed this is a running theme. Is there a reason that you're going more technical on the RNSs these days and less layman, let's say?
Yeah, it's recent RNSs have been a lot more technical. They have to be at this stage. We're obviously putting into the public domain information, data interpretation, as we make advances in these projects. At this stage, we've got to be a bit careful, like in terms of some of the language we use. We don't want to over promote. But the picture that's building across the entire KSZ northern section at the moment is just the sheer scale of this project. We've talked a lot in the past about how big it is. Obviously, the Kalahari Suture Zone is 450 kilometres long. We've got nearly 9,000 square kilometres. So to all intents and purposes, we've got the whole area sewn up because what's not available is in a national park. So we've got strategic hold over this. But what's happening as a result of this drill campaign that we've been involved in since the summer is that we're now getting quantifiable evidence that's really starting to prove up the system's potential. We've obviously had two deep holes that have encountered two different looking sets of Proterozoic rocks. We've encountered different sort of hints towards mineralization within those. And the picture that's starting to come together is just a huge opportunity. Again, I've got to be careful with the language I use, but I mean, I don't think there's any superlative that we can use for this project at this point, because what we've now got with the Great Red Spot, which we talked about yesterday, and then this morning's announcement with this 30 kilometre strike length in target area A. I mean, Mark, these are potentially world-class projects in their own right. The two of them, in geological terms, sat right next door to each other. And on top of that, we've got this added potential of the Proterozoic underlying the Karoo. So we've got two major volcanic systems that have occurred within these regions over the last 1.1 billion years, each of which could have led to events that led to the creation of magmatic sulfide, so copper, nickel, sulfur, PGE bodies, or this new theory that we're working up at the moment, which is something very intriguing down in the Proterozoic in the Great Red Spot. So at this stage, we're just putting the information out there. We'll provide more context as our understanding deepens, but it's quite mind-blowing at the moment, Mark.
So you say that the objective of this hold has been designed to intersect the B1 Conductor. And I noticed in your comments you said you're personally particularly encouraged by the B1 Conductor. So I wonder if you can let us know what particularly encourages you about this.
First of all, it's the cross-formational nature of this body. So we've used the word sort of cross-formational. I'm glad to have the opportunity to talk a bit about what that means. If you imagine layers of rock formations forming over hundreds of millions of years, they typically form on a horizontal plane, stacked one on top of the other. So one of the risks with the TDEM surveys is that we identify what are called formational conductors. So in other words, part of the sort of underlying host country rock. What's really interesting about the B1 Conductor is it's at a 60-degree angle. So it's not vertically dipping, but it's sharply dipping. Now, what's important about that is there are only a few things geologically that could cause something like that to happen. It might be sort of tectonic activity, some kind of great force within the earth that sort of might have moved a body, or it could have been a magmatic event. So in other words, magma 180 million years ago, trying to make its way up to surface and effectively burning its way through those formational rocks that I described. So the fact that this body appears to be cross-formational, we've obviously got important drill core evidence from the last hole that we've drilled. So we think we've got a pretty good understanding of what the underlying rock formations are. And the B conductor appears to have intruded through a number of those. So that's quite an encouraging sign. It does suggest that it could well have been a magmatic event that caused that. There's obviously the conductance reading on this thing, 8,200 Siemens. It's always been sort of towards the upper end of what we were hoping to find in this first phase of exploration. So that's always been something that we are very, very excited about. But what's also increasingly looking like it might be significant is the actual dip of the body itself. So its cross-formational nature suggests that it's possibly was formed from a magmatic event, but it also appears to be dipping directly towards the magnetic center of the Great Red Spot. Now, it's our understanding, which appears to have been confirmed from the core samples we've got, that the Great Red Spot was a Proterozoic event, or was formed as a Proterozoic event 1.1 billion years ago. Now, if we're correct, and this body, this B conductor, is a Karoo Age event in 180 million years ago, it's quite conceivable that the Karoo Age magmas could have exploited structural weaknesses that the Proterozoic the Proterozoic magmas also exploited 1.1 billion years ago. So the fact that this appears to be pointing to effectively the same plumbing system, I think that's the way to describe it, suggests that this could be an offshoot of that. If you imagine this as being one gigantic plumbing system, it's quite possible that this B conductor is directly connected to the underlying Proterozoic. So it's obviously early days. We've got to go and drill this thing. But the fact that we encountered a 70-meter thick section of Karoo sill at about the distance, or sorry, at about the depth that we think the B conductor is at, that again is another, albeit circumstantial, but it is another lead. So yeah, we're feeling very encouraged by this at this stage, Mark.
And the other news you've had then, which is you've identified a 30-kilometre target. Now 30 kilometres is huge. Can you give some context around this, how you found it, why you were looking for it, and how you can grasp it with it being such a wide area?
So we've put on the Twitter feed this morning a thread with maps to accompany this morning's announcement. And if you look at the fifth tweet that we put out, we show a map of the region's airborne magnetics. So that magnetic body, we already knew sort of the Proterozoic. It was down there and it was obviously heavily magnetized, and you can see it very clearly. That's the 30-kilometre strike length. What we've now done is we've reinterpreted a combination of the airborne data and the ground data available to us using the evidence that we've taken from the drill core in the second hole that we drilled. So that was hole TA2DD002. What that's enabled us to do is to constrain our model and give us a much higher degree of confidence of what's actually down there. So within the wider Proterozoic, we've now identified this more magnetized area, and we've got a very sort of intriguing clue that there's a conductive body sitting within there off the hole that we've already drilled. Now, we're having a few issues with the down hole EM. The temperature in the hole is very high, which has caused some issues with the current probe. So we've got a second probe that we're about to put down there. Unfortunately, that probe, it needed to have its battery changed, if you believe. And this is not sort of a simple task. So that probe's had to be sent off to South Africa. It's with the technicians in South Africa at the moment who are installing a new battery. So we're hoping to complete the downhole EM on this so far. But if we're able to identify sort of a decent conductor within this body, that becomes a drill target in its own right. But much more importantly, what that then gives us is a much, much more clearly defined exploration strategy to move forward, because we've only conducted 9 TDEM surveys over our Pakunzi prospecting licenses at the moment. We've talked all along that this has been proof of concept. Part of the proof of concept of this drill campaign is to prove that we're using the right technologies. And so far, everything appears to be aligning and suggesting that we have actually put together quite a comprehensive exploration model that can be scaled up and rolled out.
So this is a new target then that's been identified through the downhole EM.
We announced this a couple of weeks ago. So I wouldn't quite call it a target yet. We clipped at about 700. The winch that we used only went down to 780 meters. So from 760 down to 780, we've clipped the top of this conductive body. It's not a strong enough reading yet that we could get a definitive sort of reading to get an idea of the size, scale, orientation, and conductance of it. This is why we need to complete the deeper downhole EM down to the bottom of the hole.
Okay. So this might then lead to a future drilling target, a drilling campaign, but potentially on the site?
Well, yes is the simple answer. I mean, look, if we identify a conductor that's within this Gabbro, it would immediately become our highest priority target that we've ever identified. Because so far, everything that we've identified has been found from surface. So even this B conductor, we're very excited about the B conductor that we're drilling at the moment. But the key limitation is that obviously it's been done from a surface survey. So until we've actually got core samples, we don't actually know what's down there. The difference between that and the possibility of a conductor in this 30-kilometre strike is that we've got drill core from down there. So we know that it's sitting within Proterozoic, and there's no noise sort of from surface down to depth, because we're taking the downhole probe. The probe is going down the hole and taking the readings, from near where the conductor is sitting. So I mean that really would become very high priority target for us. Obviously, depending on the readings that we get. I mean, it would obviously the conductive body would need to be above a certain threshold in terms of Siemens. So what we've said publicly is that anything over 1,000 Siemens is a good exploration target for us. Probably for a deeper target, we would need to have a more conductive body than that. But again, these are all part of the questions that we're looking to answer at the moment as we're working our way through this massive data that we've accumulated over the last 6 months.
And right now, then, the activity is going on at hole number 2. KSZ DD002 is being drilled at the moment, and results hopefully before the end of the year. Was that right?
Yeah, well, it's the 4th hole in the campaign. We changed the naming system to make it easier for the future. The first naming system we had was unnecessarily complicated. So it's the 4th hole of the campaign, but the second in the area of the Great Red Spot. We hope to hit target depth by the year end. I mean, obviously, it will depend then on what we encounter. But in terms of full results, that is just going to take some time for us to send core samples off to the laboratories in South Africa to get them to perform the analysis that we need.
And then would it be on to the other project, then the KCB, at that point, to do some drilling over there?
Well, first of all, we're moving to Dittel. We've already announced that we've got a target down at I-10 that we're going to go and investigate with the current rig. So the idea is to mobilise that as quickly as possible. We'll have to shift camp as well, so that will take a bit of time. But we're looking to drill that immediately in the new year. In the meantime, we are looking through, we've got a proposal on the table for drilling in the KCB. We're just waiting for the results of this gravity survey that's being done there. So hopefully those will be with us any day. And then I think hopefully, in the coming weeks, we'll be looking to make some further announcements on the KCB.
Okay, well, Ben Turney, the CEO of Kavango Resources, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for listening to this Stockbox interview. For more information, interviews and videos, visit our website at stockboxmedia.com or give us a follow on Twitter by searching @StockboxMedia.